Hello, CIS30A. In this video, I want to illustrate how you can use GUIZero library or module to create your graphical user interface as you've seen on the right. So just to start, you will need to download or save a .gif or GIF file. And so because we will add the image file to our GUI. And in this, you can see that with my window, we will add text, buttons, sliders. We will also add additional components to our particular graphical user interface. Begin to create our graphical user interface, we will need to download the library or the module. As I'm using Tawny, and in Tawny, I would go ahead and click Tools, and I would go to Manage Plugins. And so if you're using other type of IDE, you just gotta refer to its documentation and see how you would be able to install packages or module in the IDE itself. If you're using just regular text editor, you would likely need to use pip3 install, but you would need to download and install the package or the module first before you start using it in your program. So here I would then need to search for GUIZero, and you would be able to find the package that you need or the module that you need, and then you would need to click install. As you can see, I already installed it, so the only option I have now is uninstall. So then it would place it in your Python 3 folder. So this package needs to be downloaded and installed, and you can use your IDE in order to do that. So to begin, we will start with the import statement. Here we would say from GUIZero import app. And with this, as we go along, we will import in different components of that particular package in order to add elements to our graphical user interface, such as button or sliders and so on. So here, simply when we're bringing in app, we call it app here, and we want to be able to have a window that's going to have a title, Hello World. So with that, what we will need to do is to create an object called app, lowercase, and you can call this anything you want. For example, you can call this A, or if you name it app here, you just got to make sure that you use it when you call the display method. So here we create an object called app, and for it, what we want to do is we're going to have our GUI in a window, and it's going to have a title, and in the title you simply use a string. So you assign the string to this title, and this string is Hello World. So if you want to say welcome friends, you can put that there. Okay. So then on the third line here, we would then use that object to be able to access the display method, which comes from this particular package. So we would bring in the module, and then from the GUIZero package, we create an object, and in it we would then specify the parameter that we want to use, title. So first you want to be able to build up that window with the title, and then we would use that object to be able to access the display method. Once we have this, then we are going to go ahead and click File, Save As, and we can put it in our folder. So I'm going to go ahead and call that GUI test 1, and then we're going to go ahead and run it. So here, as you can see, with the 3-line of script, we would have a window and we would have welcome friends as the text that's going to be displayed as a title for that particular window. So first, you have to establish the window, and then you're going to add the components of your GUI onto this particular window. Then next, what we're going to do is we're going to add some text. So as we want to add some text onto our window, we would need to we need to create a text widget, and we need to bring in the module from the GUIZero package. So with that, you will need to make adjustment to your import statement. So you would say from GUIZero import app, text, because now we are going to be utilizing the text widget from that particular package. So then next we are going to create an object, same as before. So if you have your existing code from the prior step, all you have to do is add text to your import line, your import statement. Then you are going to add a line before the display. So app display is always going to be last, as we are going to use the display method to really output the complete graphical user interface on screen. So we simply just add a line, and here we would say we would have a welcome message, and welcome message is going to be another object, and this object is going to utilize text module, and in the parameter we are going to pass the first object, which is app, and we want the text widget to display welcome to my app. So here we would say text is going to be welcome to my app. So you can put anything you want inside the string here. So these two need to go into the parameter of text. And so with that, we would then finish up with app display. So I simply just add text into the import statement, and then after the first object, I create a second object. And here, when you do that, you are simply adding text widget to the GUI. So after we have the 4 lines, then we can go ahead and click run. So now, as you can see, the first step was for us to have welcome friends showing on as a title on our window. And the second step that we just completed allow us to add the text widget, which has welcome to my app. So it simply put the text in the background of that window. In the next step, what we'll do is we are going to add a text box where the user can enter some kind of information, such as username, password, or simply their name. So in doing this, what we will need to do is we need to change our existing import statement and add text box. So after text, we are going to have text box added to the import statement. And so far in the last 2 steps, we accomplished these widgets, the title on the window and the text widget. Then we would need to add another line before our display. So I have a third object called my name, and this object is going to be using text box widget, and we are going to pass the first object, which is going to be app here. So as it is going to be on top of the actual window with the title, we are going to have a text box that's going to store the user name. So we are going to go ahead and run this. So as you can see, it now has a text box, And we want to do something with this. And so when you design graphical user interface, the widget that you're using, it's going to be event driven. That means that, you know, in some cases when it would wait for the user to input something using the keyboard, and then with that we have to incorporate functions in our program. So later on, as you can see, we will do something with the type of information that they entered here. But for now, what we just added is a text box, and the information that is going to be entered, that's going to be storing under my name. Okay. So in the last step, we had added a text box. And so we had added a text box, but we want to do something with the information that the user enter in that text box. So as I mentioned, that we want to be able to take that input and then possibly display it somehow. Okay. So in this part, what we're going to do next is we are going to add a push button. And with that push button, it's going to have a specific command and it's going to display some information. So when you want to add a push button from GUIZero package, you simply add to push button to your import statement. And as common practice, we would then need to define our functions at the top. So here I have a function called say my name. And this function is going to be used for the push button. So when the user clicks that push button, it's going to do something. And in this case, what we want to do is we want to take the user input, which is the username, from the text box. And once the user input that and click the button, it's going to display their name onto our actual GUI window. So here we simply create a function that provides the action under the event that the user clicked the push button. Then for below the text box, we want to add the push button widget to the GUI. And so here I have another object called update text. And for this particular object, this is going to be for the push button. And in its parameter, we want to say that it is part of app, which is our GUI window. And we would have a command, and that command is going to be the function that you previously defined, which is say my name. And on top of the button, we want to have some kind of text to show why are they clicking that button, right? So we want to have some kind of text on top of the button to really show the user the purpose of that particular button. So here we simply have the text, and this text is display my name, which is a string. So display my name will be showing on top of the button itself. And this widget needs to be added before the display method. So here we are going to go ahead and click run. And so you would see here is our app window. And we would have the text widget, we have the text box, and the button we previously created. So now if I type my name and click that button, it would change the text to Casey instead of welcome to my app. So it modified that. And so how did we do that? Well, it updates the welcome message object here when you specify the value following the welcome message which you previously defined. So here we allow that function to really update what was stored in welcome message, which was previously welcome to my app. So as the user enter the name, it would then, and click the button, it would then update the display to the username at the top instead of welcome to my app. So the changes that we made in this particular part of the exercise is we added push button into our import statement. We then define a function so that way it would update the value from the text box to the welcome message, so it would show that as a welcome message after the button is clicked. Then we also add the button widget to the GUI. We are going to add a slider to our graphical user interface. And with the slider, just like before, we would then need to update our import statement and add slider here. So first you would need to add slider. Then what we would need to do next is we want certain type of action or some kind of output when the user drag that slider left or right. So then with that, we would have to define another function. So here we would have a function called change text size. So as the user slide it left or right, it would modify, it would either, if we're going from left to right, it would increase the font size of the text. So we would define the function called change text size, and its parameter would be slider value. Then we would then change up the size of the welcome message, which we previously declared here. Okay, welcome to my app. And then that also gets updated with the name, with the push button. So it's going to change the size of the welcome message. And so now on adding the slider widget, we would declare another object called text size. And with it, we would then utilize slider from the package. Then we would pass app in its parameter, because the argument here is that it's going to be part of the actual GUI window. For its command, we would then bring down the function that we previously declared, which is change text size. And so the next part to the argument would be the font size. So from the left, when the slider is sliding left, that will be the start. The start will be size 10 and the end will be size 80. So when the user drags the slider from left to right, it would increase the font size between 10 and 80. And this widget is added before the display method. So when we run this, we would see that here is the welcome to my app text that we added. We added the text box. We also added a push button, and the last step that we just did, we added the slider. So then we would first enter our name, click the button. It changes the welcome message to the username, which is from the prior step. And then in this current step, we would then drag the slider. And as we can see, we can increase the font size on our graphical user interface with the display of the text or the welcome message. Next, we are going to add an image or a picture to our graphical user interface. And like TK Enter, when you're using GUIZero, it's best if we use GIF. You can use animated GIF, or you can use non-animated or still GIF. This particular package handles animation a little bit better in the GIF file. So what I had done is I had an image file called PC, and it is a GIF file. And I want to make sure that this image file is in the same folder as my script. And that's important. So as we are going to implement picture in this part of the program, we would then change up our import statement and add picture. And in following the prior steps, we previously added the slider. So then we would want to add the picture widget by declaring an object called myPic. And it's going to be a picture. It's part of the window, which is app. And all you have to do for the second part of the argument is going to be image, and you have to specify the exact file name and extension that you use. So whatever you saved into the same folder as the script, you have to make sure that the file name matches and the file type matches. Okay. And this widget is added before the display method. So then we would then run. So as you can see, we had completed quite a few steps, and in our last step we added an animated GIF. So you can test it by entering your name, change up the font. And so if you wanted to modify the size of your image, you can also put in the additional property for its size here. But as you can see, it's gonna be just default to what that GIF that I have saved.